Yo, what is up there, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie, also known as Driveway Built 460. Got something pretty exciting for us today. Our friends over at carlinklife sent over this really awesome unit for us that I'm really excited about putting into the GX. It's an LCD digital cluster or panel, however you want to word that. Recently took a trip and I rented a vehicle and I saw the dash or the LCD cluster and I thought, man, the GX would be pretty cool if I had this in my GX. And of course, carlinklife came to the rescue and they sent me out this unit. So we're gonna go ahead and install that and see how it works out. But before we do, we wanna go ahead and there are a lot of things that are on the dashboard, on the panel that I wanna make sure that gets addressed, because when I put in the new cluster, it has to meet everything that I normally use it for. All right, so let's go ahead and unbox this. This is my first time opening up the box. Let's see what's inside. Okay, some wiring here. Looks like a cable with the USB drive. This might be for firmware updates to the cluster itself. And we got an HDMI cord here, and along with, I don't know what this is. Looks like a flash drive. Okay, so it looks like the HDMI port goes here. I did reach out to carlinklife just recently, and they did tell me that this is going to be more than likely the unit that you can utilize a mirror function for the digital cluster. So if you have the carlinklife's radio like I do, then what happens is you can use the radio to mirror over to the cluster. So I think this is what these pieces are for. So we're gonna go ahead and get to that. We're gonna test out that feature and see what that looks like. And then down over here is the cluster. It's supposed to have a anti-glare screen according to the information. So this looks like it might be for the OEM connector. There's the HDMI port, and also another connection here, which I think this is where this goes. Okay, so let's see here. You guys can see we have a couple of things going on. We have the TPMS light, turn signal, that works. Brake light, BSM, which is your blind spot monitoring, seatbelts. Let's go ahead and just open the door for now. See what that shows us, that the actual door is also open. So we have that. Everything's all analog, of course. Temperature, gas, park. Let's put this here to drive. Parking sensor sonars are going off. Okay. Now, if we toggle through the button here, you guys can see what it cycles through. And these are all the displays on the menu you can cycle through. And also on the trip gauge, you also have this. So if you tap that button, it shows you your trip. And then back to that. Now, what I want to know is, since I off-road, I got a few things that I have to make sure that does pop up on this new screen. For example, there's my KDSS. That's going to be a switch that I utilize to turn off the KDSS system when I off-road with that. It just gives my GX a much more softer ride when I go off-road, especially when I go above 12 miles per hour. So it's really nice and convenient to have. Not just that, but also there's my center lock and diff that has to also work and light up. And then there's also this, that's my downhill assist control. There's that. And also, since I off-road again, I have to make sure that this valuable thing pops up too, which is my 4-low. So that has to come up with all, as well as the other light functions lights that are also on the dashboard there. So let's make sure that everything here does pop up on the new dash, on the new cluster. So let's go ahead and start disassembling. All right, so tool you're gonna need is really simple, just a pry tool, and also a ratchet with a 10mm socket. First things first, we're gonna go ahead and take off this panel here. This is gonna come right, and then we're also gonna remove the vent here. I do have carlinklife's ambient lighting here, and so I wanna be careful with this, but first we're gonna go ahead and take this off. And that comes right off. It's just held on by clips. Now let's just let that sit there. And then the actual vent does also come out too. So again, it's just clipped on. So just a little pry and it comes right off. And we'll set this to the side. And the vent comes right out. We're gonna focus our attention to the engine push start. We're gonna go ahead and get our pry tool and just pry at this and pop this right off. Again, it's just held on by clips. We're gonna move the windshield wiper and out that comes. So to take off the instrument bezel, there's a small, or at least a line that goes right across the steering column here. We just need to reach our pry tool in here. It just pops right off. It's just held on by clips. So once you have that, the bezel should just come right out, just like so. So now we have these 10mm bolts here. These are gonna come right out. Column just down some. This will help me just pull out the, right, so that comes right out. For the panel, there's only one plug that goes back over here. I'm gonna just press on the release tab. Sorry, I'm gonna honk the horn as well. But there goes that, and out comes the cluster. Okay, so we got both displays here. This is the OEM unit versus CarlinkLife's digital instrument cluster. So let's go ahead and flip them around, see what they look like. All right, so I think we do have to go ahead and take off these clips back over here. Again, using the same pry tool. They just look like this. There's no right or wrong way, just clip them in and we're done. All right guys, so for this part here, if you guys do not have the CarlinkLife's navigation radio screen, you can skip this part. Since I do have that, however, luckily and thankfully, I thought about this ahead of time. I did have my, I can see it right here. One of them has the USB port that goes in here along with the HDMI, and that hooks up to my CarlinkLife radio right up here. That hooks up to this one, and that should mirror the display from this over to the digital cluster. So let's see how that works out. Well, instructions were pretty much zilch. So a lot of this, I'm just going off by what I just see. So we're gonna go ahead and hook up the USB drive to the HDMI port here, and then the HDMI cable right over to this one here. So that one there is complete. Okay, let's move on to connecting the display. So let's see here. Moving on to the back here. Remember the white harness with the plug here. Okay, so it snapped into place. All right, so there's that part there. So that's hooked up there. The last piece of the puzzle is going to be the OEM connection. Okay, so that's already in. So now let's put the cluster back into its spot. All right, so before I button everything up, I want to make sure everything works. So let's go ahead and fire this up. That's pretty cool. Gx460. How cool is that? All right, so here's our screen. Let me go ahead and turn this on. Turn the vehicle on because it's hot as a raccoon here. Okay, so we just have to make sure this thing clips into place. Okay, there's one, there's two. We just have to put in the 10mm bolts back into place and then go from there. Okay, so everything fired up the way it should. All right, so let's open the door. So that tells you right there that the door is open for you. Let's cycle through the odometer first. Trip A, trip B, all of that got resetted. I think my trip B was around 249 miles. It says kilometers, so we have to make that change there. Degrees up here, it says 36 degrees. We have to change that to Fahrenheit. My idle seems to kind of be jumping a little bit over here. Temperature's over here to the side. Your fuel gauge is over here to the right. And okay, so let's see here. It says my engine oil is low. I don't know why. I just did an oil change recently, so that is not accurate. But hopefully that's just a calibration that we can deal with. So earlier, my TPMS light is on. That's showing that it's also there, so that's accurate. My parking brake is on. And then BSM down over here, that's my blind spot monitoring. Now I'm going to go ahead and toggle through and see what this does. Okay, so that went away. Steering wheel angle. So if I turn my wheel, you guys can see that that's moving with that. Back to the car, hold enter for settings. Time, mileage, vehicle mode. So I'll go through this on my own time and figure this out. Okay. So to go back, I'm not even sure what to do with that. Okay, so there's that. So this does allow you to go through the sequence here. Vehicle, so my vehicle is gray, so let's keep it with that. Return, unit settings, there we go. So let's change that to Fahrenheit. Now you guys saw that went from Celsius to now Fahrenheit. Speed, we want to do miles per hour. Distance, miles. Fuel consumption is not kilometers. MPG, US. Pressure, bar, PSI. And return. Language settings, obviously English. Version info, that is the version right there. Protocol upgrade, we'll deal with that later. And return. Assisted driving, I don't have any of that in my vehicle, so if you have a luxury that has that option, you can utilize that. Chassis lift, this is more likely if you have air suspension, which mine doesn't, so I am not going to worry about this. Vehicle inclination. Now this is going to be pretty useful. Again, I off-road quite a bit, so when I go off camber, this will be pretty awesome to have, so I can see exactly what my vehicle's pitch and angle is going to be at. So I'll get my approach and departure angle. That's going to be pretty cool and pretty useful to have when I off-road. And then back to the main area here. Okay. For now, let's make sure that everything else works. So my downhill assist, let's go ahead and give that a go. There we go. That's flashing down over there. I mean, that's working. My KDSS, let's see if that works. There we go. Up on the top left. There's that. Center locking diff. Center locking diff is right there. And then last but not least, my 4 low. And there it goes right there. So it's good, guys. Have no problems with that. Traction control light came on because, again, if you're on 4 low, that turns off. But so far, everything works. So I'm really impressed with this. I love the way it looks. It makes my GX look more modernized now, which is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and turn all these off. All right, so let's see here. What else can we do with this? So that's gonna be it there. Navigation. Oh, so there we go, guys. So there's that. So that basically mirrored everything from my CarlinkLife radio back over to the LCD instrument cluster. That's pretty cool. So that also shows you, if I press on the gas, the RPM, your trip, it's on P, which is park. If I switch it over to drive, there's that. The range is all there, miles are all there, time, again, still with the temperature up there. So that's pretty awesome. Okay, so if we go to where it says vehicle, because then the top right is basically your settings and display menu and whatnot. So if you go through that using the toggle button over here, if I click on enter, this changes the whole entire display, and we're gonna just toggle through all the ones that they offer. That's cool. There's that. All right, again. Oh no, this is awesome. And And there's this one, it shows the GX on the mountains. That's pretty cool, I like that. And then back to the main screen. So you have plenty of options to choose from, which is not bad. Let me know which one you guys like. This screen, this one, that one, this one, that, this, back to the main screen. I think I like this one because I can be able to kind of cycle through the options here. All right, guys, so that's pretty much it, guys. So what I do notice is on the odometer, it says 0 when I have 141,000 miles on there. So that's gonna be an issue. So I'll have to contact carlinklife and figure that out. All right, guys, so I did find out where you have to go to get the odometer corrected. So go back to settings, and then we're gonna hold on to that enter button. It's gonna bring us here, and then we have to, earlier it was down over, where was it at? It was here, right? And so I only saw just these 5 menu settings here. But if you scroll back up, I totally missed that scrolling part there. But anyways, we'll go back up and we'll say total mileage times settings. Return total mileage. Okay, so here we are. So let's go ahead and correct this. 141. Okay, let's see what that does. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now it's showing on the bottom there now. 141, 233 miles.
1 week later.
All right, so we're back in front of the computer. In order for us to fix that low engine level light that comes up on cluster, we need to go ahead and download a file, update that, and it's a protocol update. Download this file here. It's v08.rar. So you want to go ahead and download that file, which I've already have. Let's find out the file. It's right over here. So when you unzip this file, and when you do, which I've already have, it comes out right over here. You take this file, and I can't read that, but it says V08 and whatever else that comes up along over there. Now, flash drive, you need to make sure that's gonna be nothing more than 16 gigabytes. I have a 8 gigabyte right here, so we're gonna use this. So one thing to note that carlinklife did inform me was that you cannot have the folder into the direct root of the file. So what you have to do is go into the folder, and there's the file itself. Use that and extract that directly and put it into the root drive of the flash drive. So let's go ahead and hop back into the GX and then plug this back into the USB drive for the cluster and get rid of that annoying display. I've already pulled out the engine push start trim piece here. There's going to be 2 USBs that connect directly onto the panel. There's going to be a protocol update and a system update. So I need to use the protocol update. So let's go ahead and hook up the USB drive onto that. All right, so it's in. Let's toggle through settings. Hold on enter. Let's go back down, version info, hit enter, and then protocol update. Let's go ahead and tap that button there and click on that. Start upgrade. Okay, and it's complete. All right, so that means that we should have no more of the engine level display that should pop up, and that's the fix for that. Well, let's find out. Let's see if that display will come back on. Let's go for a little drive. When I drive, within a few minutes, that light pops right up. All right, so I think the protocol update corrected this for us. You guys are seeing firsthand how everything is working. Again, turn signals, they all work the way they should. But yeah, that is fixed now, guys. Thank you to carlinklife for sending over that update. I could have used that on that 600-mile road trip that I did. Not too hard, right? It's pretty easy. Everything seems to be running just fine. Now let's go ahead and do a quick review. Turn this back on. So, a couple things to note about the new cluster, or the new gauge cluster odometer. When I drive the vehicle, I don't really notice it, but to some of you guys it might be a bit annoying. But over here towards the tachometer, the RPM, it's not smooth. So when I step on the gas, for example, you can see where it kind of jumps. It's not really as smooth as I would like for it to be. Now this can bother you. For me, it's not a big deal. As long as I know exactly where the RPM range is at, I am okay with that. You can just see where it comes down. It's not really, yeah, it just kind of fluctuates here and there, and that's fine. Not really a big deal about that. The other issue I have is if you guys like to use the information display, which like I do right over here, where it displays your battery, your temperature for your coolant, and also it says right over here, your oil level. But if you look, there's a fuel symbol right there. I was confused because, you know, it kept saying the display earlier will come back on and say engine oil level low, but on this it would indicate that it's at 99%. However, I found out that this is not the oil. This is meant for your fuel. So when I noticed my fuel level over here on the right hand side going down, it matched the percentage back over here. And I thought, why is it going low for the oil? And then I thought, oh, I realized it's not for the oil, it's for the fuel. I contacted carlinklife and they spoke to me about that and say, hey, we're gonna have our engineers take a look at that and give you an update to correct that. So this will be corrected in a future time. But for now, that's what it is what it is. But if you guys don't like seeing that, you guys can always change it. But I like to leave it right at this information display. That's where I keep it at. I took a long trip over to Alabama Hills. It was about a 600+ mile trip. So if you look at my odometer, I was at 141,233 miles when I started the install. I now have 142,012 miles. So I've driven a little over 800 miles since then, and it's been nothing but awesome. I haven't had any issues, any hiccups besides having the engine low light display that comes up every so often. Hopefully that protocol update corrects that. But for the most part, I've been very happy with it. I love seeing the odometer where it shows my speed over here to the right and everything else along that. It just gives the GX a much more modern feel, modern look to it now. And not to mention, because I have my carlinklife radio back over here to the right, having this also complements the way how the vehicle looks and also feel. That is the installation. That is a bit of a review. Again, I put some miles on to this cluster, and again, I love it. I'm just happy with it. Special shout out to carlinklife for sending over this awesome unit for me. Their radio has been nothing but great for me as well. I'll be making a review for a long-term review on that radio soon, and so stay up to date for that. This is a massive upgrade to the GX and real easy to install, pretty much plug and play. I'm absolutely loving this new dash panel. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch this. If you guys have questions or want to comment, leave them down below, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next adventure. Peace.